Okay, welcome to part three. As I was talking about in the last section, I was really wrestling with this number 16. I was quite sure it came from God, but doubt started to creep in. You know, I had gone for several months thinking about that number every day, and I just couldn't quite get my arms around that event that occurred with the man at what I think was an angel at Walgreens. So anyway, doubt started creeping in, and it was bothering me every single day for months. In fact, it was about 8 months, as I recall. So one morning, again, early, I get up early all the time. I asked God, I said, God, is there any way that you could show me whether or not this number 16, the whole event, came from you? I believe it did, but, frankly, some doubts creeping in, and it's possible it could have been a coincidence. Now I don't believe in coincidences, but then I thought, maybe it's a coincidence, and I would really like to know. So if you could show me, I'd appreciate it. And I have no idea how you might do that, or even if you will do that. So this was 2 days before the Thanksgiving of 2015. That morning, I got up, I went to our local grocery store, got out of my car, looked down as I was locking it, and right between my feet was 4 coins, right between my shoes. 2 dimes, a nickel, and a penny, 26 cents. And my first thought was, well, that's odd that you'd find, 4 coins right next to each other, in a parking lot. But I picked them up and I was walking into the store, wasn't really thinking too much about anything. And then I thought, wait a minute, 16, 26, could there be any connection? I don't know. I never heard that 26 meant anything in the Bible. And but I thought, well, I'll Google it when I get home. So I did. I Googled it. And lo and behold, it comes up, the number 26, the number for God in the Bible. And there's several ways that occurs. I'm not going to go into all of them, but what was very interesting to me was in the Hebrew language, the letters in the Hebrew language have numerical values. And the name for God in Hebrew is Yahweh. Well, if you take the letters that spell Yahweh in Hebrew and apply those numerical values, it adds up to 26. I thought, that's interesting. But also in English, if you just apply a numerical value to our alphabet, A is 1, B is 2, so on, that G-O-D, God, adds up to 26, just like it does in Hebrew. And I thought, now that's really odd, because here you've got 2 languages that really aren't in any way related to each other, and the name for God adds up to 26 in both of them. So I thought, gee, that's pretty interesting to me. And very likely that God is saying, I am speaking to you, and I am telling you that 16 cents came from me. Now, Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. Well, Saturday morning, 2 days after that, I go to our local donut shop to get coffee and a donut. And again, I get out of my car, and right between my shoes, just like at the other parking lot, are 2 dimes. And I'm thinking to myself, this is nuts. I mean, I've been around a long time, and I've never had anything like this happen to me. But, I picked it up, and I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was very sensitive, about not getting involved in any kind of cultish thing, numerology, or, anything that might be connected with that. But I called my wife immediately at home, and I just said, Louise, you're not going to believe it. I've just found 2 dimes between my feet. Could you look it up and see if it in any way signifies anything in the Bible? And it certainly does. It signifies waiting patiently on God with expectation. Again, there's different ways, but there's at least 20 verses, and I have them in the Bible that speak exactly to that, waiting patiently on God, and that's very biblical. So a couple days later, I'm in my car. I'm driving home. I pull in my driveway, and I find a dime, and I'm just blown away, and I'm just can't believe that this is happening to me. So I picked the dime up, I lifted it up toward God, and I said, God, I'm not gonna look this up. I know there's, 10 commandments, there's a lot of tens in the Bible. I'm real sensitive about this number stuff, and I'm not gonna look it up. I'm just not gonna do it. And I didn't do it. I'm gonna say maybe a week or 10 days went by, and I punched into YouTube. The very first picture, the very first one that came up on YouTube was a picture of a man at a lectern, looked like a minister. And the caption under it said, the spiritual significance of number 10 in the Bible. And here I'm fighting it. I'm not going to look it up. And I feel, okay, God's telling me, no, you are going to look it up, because I'm going to tell you something that you aren't going to think, you're going to be wrong if you guess about what it is. You're not going to know what it is. So I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to convey to you. And so that was very interesting. The number 10 in the Bible, among other things, of course, 10 Commandments, etc., relates to completion, a new cycle, spiritual completion of an era or a season of your life, and the beginning of a new season of your life. Now, I thought this is great, because we've been, going through this thing for several years, and I was ready for a change. And I thought, boy, this is great. I find 26 cents, which signifies God. I find 20 cents, which signifies waiting patiently on God with expectation. And now 10, that signifies spiritual completeness and the end of one thing and the beginning of another. So that was very interesting. I'm going to tell you one other story that relates, and it has to do with the number 16. I mentioned to you that when I sold the salsa company, I entered into an agreement that I would continue to help them on a moment's notice, so to speak. So they would call me and say, can you come tomorrow, and we need some help. So I did that this one week, and I brought some salsa home with me. Well, when I woke up in the morning, I had this odd feeling that I was supposed to take this salsa to a restaurant, a little cafe here in Tarpon Springs, a place called Yankee Bean. And I'm thinking, why in the world do I feel like I need to do that? I know the owner, but I don't know him very well. And surely it can't be the number 16. I mean, that's kind of unique, but I'm not going to take it. I'm just not going to take it. Well, I kept feeling that push, and I took it, and I took it there, and he said, thank you. He said, didn't you have a salsa business or something like that? And I said, yes. And he said, so how's it going? I said, well, I sold it. We had a lot of struggles, but I'm still tied into future sales, royalties, if they ever get it placed. He said, well, we've been having it a little bit tough too. We're not getting the support of the Greek community like I feel we should be in the restaurant. And I said, why do you think that is? He said, I started going to a new church about a year ago. He said, I really never learned much about the Bible, the previous church I was going to. But the new one, I'm really learning about the Bible. I love it. I'm really into it, and I just read it every day. I'm so happy with that. And he said, and you've really blessed me today with that story. I was feeling down. You've lifted my spirits. So I said, great. So I leave. We go out. We go to visit our daughter for a couple of days. We come back. I go back into the restaurant, and the owner said, I've got to tell you what happened while you were gone. I said, all right, what happened? He said, well, the day you told me that 16-cent story, that afternoon I had to drive to Restaurant Depot to buy supplies for my restaurant, which I did. And when I got there, I go in and I'm shopping, for my supplies. I go to check out, and my bill came to about $800. He said, and I gave the lady the money. He said, would you care to guess how much my change was? And I said, are you going to say 16 cents? He said, yep, 16 cents. I brought it out to my car, put it in my change rack there, and I'm never going to spend that money as long as I live. I couldn't believe it. You tell me the story of the 16 cents. You lift my spirits to the moon. You give me, something to look forward to. And I get 16 cents change the very same day. So again, that's just another example of how God validates what he does. And so now I'm becoming a believer. I'm always been a numbers person. I relate to numbers. They resonate with me. And is how God is choosing to communicate with me, apparently, because there's a lot more stories, many more, relating to these numbers, and eventually we'll get around to it. So thank you.